Welcome to Grow Yourself Great. Before you can change the pattern, you have to understand the psychology that built it. There is a kind of anxiety that does not always look loud. It does not always look like panic. It does not always look like crying. It does not always look like something failing. It does not always look like someone falling apart. Sometimes it looks like a person who keeps showing up, keeps working, keeps parenting, keeps answering the emails, keeps smiling in public. But inside, their mind is running security for a threat that has not arrived yet. They wake up and the day is already talking. What do I have to do? What did I forget? What if this goes wrong? What if they're upset with me? What if I don't have enough money? What if my body is trying to tell me something? What if I mess this up? Nothing has happened yet, but their nervous system is already acting like the future has sent a warning. That is the part people miss about anxiety. Anxiety is not just fear. Fear responds to what is happening. Anxiety responds to what might happen. And when that what might happen becomes excessive, persistent, difficult to control, and starts interfering with life, we are no longer just talking about being stressed. According to the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, 5th edition, text revision, generalized anxiety requires excessive anxiety and worry occurring more days than not for at least 6 months about multiple events or activities. The person finds it difficult to control the worry. The anxiety and worry are associated with symptoms such as restlessness, fatigue, difficulty concentrating, irritability, muscle tension, and sleep disturbance. It must cause clinically significant distress or impairment, and it cannot be better explained by substances, another medical condition, or another mental disorder. That matters because medical necessity is not established by saying, I feel anxious sometimes. Medical necessity is established when the anxiety is persistent, impairing, difficult to control, and clinically significant. So this video is not here to tell you you don't have anxiety. No, this is here to help you recognize the experience, understand the pattern, and see the places where treatment, skill building, lifestyle change, and self-awareness can reduce symptom severity and improve functioning. Because anxiety may be real, and your response to anxiety may also be trainable. Now picture this. A person wakes up before the alarm. Their body is tired, but their mind is already employed. They check the phone. No emergency, but the body does not relax. They get dressed while mentally preparing for 3 conversations that have not happened. They drive while replaying one sentence from yesterday. They sit at work while part of their mind is working and another part is scanning. Did I say that wrong? Are they mad? What if I'm behind? What if I fail? What if something happens to my family? What if this feeling in my chest means something is wrong? That is the cruelty of generalized anxiety. It makes ordinary life feel like an unfinished emergency. The person may look responsible, but internally, they are exhausted from rehearsing survival. That is why GAD, generalized anxiety disorder, is not just overthinking. It is cognitive, emotional, physical, and behavioral. The mind predicts, the body activates, the behavior tries to reduce discomfort. Then the pattern repeats. That is the loop. Trigger, worry, body activation, checking, avoiding, reassurance seeking, over preparing, temporary relief. Then more anxiety later. And the dangerous part is this. The relief feels like proof. I checked, so now I feel better. I avoided, so now I'm safe. I asked again, so now I can breathe. I prepared for every possible outcome, so now I'm in control. But the nervous system learns we survived because we worried. That is how anxiety recruits your intelligence and uses it against your peace. Psychology has a name for part of this: intolerance of uncertainty. The anxious mind often does not just want an answer, it wants certainty. But life does not give certainty on demand. So the mind starts trying to manufacture certainty through prediction. And that is where anxiety becomes expensive, because now the person is not living the day. They are mentally pre-living disasters. This is where therapy matters. Cognitive behavioral therapy helps identify anxious predictions, cognitive distortions, avoidance patterns, and safety behaviors. It helps the person examine the difference between possibility and probability, because anxiety loves possibility. What if it happens? CBT, cognitive behavior therapy, asks, what evidence supports that? What evidence does not support that? What is the most realistic outcome? What would I do if it did happen? What am I avoiding because I feel anxious? Acceptance and commitment therapy, ACT, helps the person stop treating every anxious thought like a command. The thought may show up, but the person learns they do not have to obey it. The goal is not never feel anxious again. The goal is I can feel anxiety and still move according to my values. Exposure-based work helps people build tolerance for uncertainty, discomfort, and feared situations without immediately escaping, checking, or seeking reassurance. Because every time you avoid what anxiety names as dangerous, your brain may file that thing under threat. But every time you approach safely and intentionally, your brain gets new data. This is not reckless. This is structured healing. Now bring in the GYG system, grow yourself great system. Family. First and most importantly, love yourself. Anxiety often turns the inner world into a war zone. One part worries, one part criticizes, one part criticizes the worry, one part feels ashamed, one part tries to perform like everything is fine. Healing begins when you stop attacking yourself for having symptoms and start relating to yourself with responsibility and compassion. Real, recognizing every aspect of life. Anxiety is not just mindset. It can involve biology, trauma history, attachment, stress, sleep, caffeine, medical issues, family patterns, finances, work, pressure, and learned coping. If you only call it negative thinking, you miss the whole system. IDC. Intentional, deliberate, creative living. Anxiety thrives on automatic reaction. IDC says, slow down, notice the pattern, and create a different response on purpose. Think it, speak it, do it. Thoughts. Something bad is going to happen. Speech. I just know this won't work. Behavior. Avoid, check, withdraw, over-prepare. That pipeline builds your life. Devotion. You may be devoted to threat prevention without realizing it. Devotion means what you repeatedly execute. If you repeatedly rehearse danger, your system becomes organized around danger. Integration. You do not heal anxiety by pretending you are calm. You heal by bringing thought, emotion, body, and behavior into alignment. Trajectories. Every repeated response is training a future version of you. Avoidance creates one trajectory. Courage with regulation creates another. Identity construction. Be careful when anxiety becomes an identity. I am anxious is different from I experience anxiety, and I am learning how to respond to it. One traps you. The other gives you a path. Now let's talk about behavior. To reduce symptom severity, people often need to reduce the behaviors that feed the loop. Less reassurance seeking, less compulsive checking, less avoidance, less doom scrolling, less caffeine if it worsens activation, more sleep consistency, more movement, more structured problem solving, more breathing practice, more grounding, more honest therapy work. Exercise matters because anxiety lives in the body. Walking, strength training, stretching, and consistent movement helps the nervous system discharge activation and improve stress regulation. Diet matters too, not as a cure, but as support. Too much caffeine, skipped meals, dehydration, high sugar swings, and poor sleep can intensify anxiety symptoms for some people. A steadier body gives the mind less chaos to interpret as danger. And cognitive reframing matters because anxiety is not always lying, but it is often exaggerating. Instead of asking, what if something goes wrong? Ask, what is actually happening right now? When I am predicting, what is the evidence? Is this urgent or is this uncomfortable? What action is useful? What action is just anxiety, trying to feel certain? That is the work. Not denying anxiety, understanding it. Not shaming the person, showing them the mechanism. Not saying, just calm down. Teaching them how their nervous system, thoughts, behaviors, and identity patterns interact. Because the day anxiety loses power is not always the day it disappears. Sometimes it is the day you realize, I can feel this and not obey it. That is growth. That is integration. That is growing yourself great. Understanding your psychology matters. It helps you understand the patterns shaping your life. Understand clearly. Integrate deeply. Grow yourself great.